crack of the slap echoed through the restaurant like a gunshot, instantly killing the soft Korean Gaegeum music and freezing every chopstick mid-air. In the middle of the Lotus, Los Angeles's most exclusive Korean fusion restaurant, a black waitress stood with a red handprint blooming across her dark cheek, a racial slur still hanging in the air like poison. Standing over her was Olivia Chen, a woman whose designer handbag cost more than the waitress's annual rent. But no one was looking at Olivia. Every terrified eye was fixed on the man sitting next to her, Jin-Woo Park, the Shadow King of Koreatown, the man who supposedly made his enemies vanish into the Pacific. Everyone expected the waitress to be dragged out that night. But when Jin-Woo stood up, he didn't defend his lover. He did something that would shake the entire Korean underworld to its foundation. Amelia Brooks adjusted the collar of her stiff red uniform, wincing as the cheap polyester chafed against her neck. It was 8:15 p.m., at the Lotus, and her feet were already screaming in her worn black non-slip shoes. "Table 1 for you, Amelia. VIPs. Don't embarrass me or you're done here," hissed Richard, the floor manager. Richard was a man who reeked of casual racism, masked as professionalism, his condescension dripping off him like expensive cologne. "It's the Park party." Amelia's stomach dropped. In this city, you didn't need to follow the news to know who the Parks were. They were the invisible empire running beneath LA's glittering surface like underground power lines. And Jin-Woo Park was the voltage that could kill with a touch. "I've got it, Richard. Please, I need these tips. My grandmother's facility payment is due Friday," Amelia whispered, tucking a rebellious curl back into her tight bun. She picked up the heavy tray, balancing a bottle of rare Korean soju and crystal glasses that probably cost more than her entire wardrobe. She took a deep breath. She wasn't Amelia Brooks, the girl drowning in student debt and medical bills for her grandmother with Alzheimer's. Tonight she was a ghost. Invisible, efficient, silent. She navigated the floor, weaving through tables occupied by tech billionaires, Hollywood producers, and Korean business moguls. But the atmosphere changed when she approached Table 1, the private dining room in the back, separated by rice paper screens and guarded shadows. 2 men in dark suits stood near the entrance, their eyes following her every movement like predators tracking prey. At the table sat Jin-Woo Park. If you're already hooked and can't wait to see what Jin-Woo does when that wine bottle slips from Amelia's hands, do me a huge favor, hit that like button right now. It really helps me create more intense, dramatic stories like this one for you. Subscribe and turn on notifications because I've got so many more thrilling stories coming your way that you absolutely don't want to miss. All right, don't go anywhere. We're starting right now. And trust me, you do not want to miss the moment everything changes. Let's get into it. Amelia's hands were still shaking from her morning shift at the coffee shop when she clocked in at the Lotus at 7:30 p.m. Her feet felt like they were walking on broken glass, the cheap insoles in her non-slip shoes having given up hours ago. She had exactly 4 hours and 15 minutes before she had to be across town for her overnight cleaning shift at the Century City office tower. 3 jobs, 72 hours this week, and she was still $847 short for her grandmother's facility payment due Friday. "Brooks!" Richard's voice cut through the kitchen like a whip. He stood by the expediting station, his perpetual sneer firmly in place. "You're on Table 1, private dining room. Try not to look so." He gestured vaguely at her face, her body, her existence. Ghetto. Amelia's jaw clenched, but she swallowed the rage. She needed this job, needed the tips. Last month, Sunset Gardens had threatened to transfer her grandmother Helen to county care, the kind of place where Alzheimer's patients were left in soiled bedding, forgotten in hallways, stripped of the last shreds of dignity. Helen had raised her after Amelia's mother died, had worked 2 jobs herself to put food on the table. She deserved better than to die confused and alone. "Table 1 is the Park party," Richard added, his eyes glittering with something nasty. "Jin-Woo Park and his girlfriend. You know who that is?" Everyone knew. The Korean Mafia boss who supposedly controlled everything from Koreatown to the docks. The man whose name people whispered like a curse. Amelia picked up the tray with the bottle of Huayo 41, a premium Korean soju that cost $300. Her nursing degree, abandoned after 2 years when Helen got sick, had left her with $65,000 in debt and no way to pay it. The collections calls had started coming to her work. The eviction notice was taped to her apartment door. She was drowning, and nobody was throwing her a rope. The private dining room was separated from the main restaurant by traditional rice paper screens. 2 security guards in dark suits stood at the entrance, their eyes tracking her like surveillance cameras. Inside, the room was intimate, expensive silk cushions, low lighting, the scent of jasmine incense mixing with something darker. Danger. Jin-woo Park sat at the head of the table. He was younger than she expected, maybe 32, with sharp features and eyes that seemed to calculate the value of everything they landed on. He wore a perfectly tailored black suit that probably cost more than she made in 6 months. He was handsome in a way that felt lethal, all clean lines and controlled power. Next to him lounged Olivia Chen, draped in a white Chanel dress that clung to her like liquid silk. She was scrolling through her phone, diamond rings catching the light with every dismissive flick of her wrist. "Your soju," Amelia said softly, her voice steady despite her trembling hands. Olivia didn't look up. "Does the help even know what that is? Can you even pronounce it? Or should I write it down phonetically for you?" The guard smirked. Jinwoo's expression didn't change, but his eyes shifted, watching, measuring. "Hueo 41, ma'am," Amelia replied, her throat tight. "Distilled from rice, 41% alcohol content." "How educated," Olivia drawled. She finally looked up, her gaze raking over Amelia with open contempt. "Though I suppose they let anyone into college these days with diversity quotas." Amelia's hands shook harder as she uncorked the bottle. She needed to stay calm. Needed the tips. $300 on a bottle like this could mean a $50 tip. That was half a shift at the cleaning job. That was... Olivia shifted suddenly, her Birkin bag swinging out as she gestured at something on her phone. The leather caught Amelia's wrist at the exact moment she tilted the bottle. Time slowed. The soju splashed out in a crystalline arc, missing Jinwoo completely but catching Olivia's white dress across the lap, the expensive fabric immediately staining. "You stupid!" Olivia shot up from her seat, her face contorting with rage. "Do you have any idea what you've done? This is custom Chanel." "I'm so sorry. I didn't..." "You clumsy." The word Olivia used next was a racial slur that cut through the air like a blade. Then her hand came up. The slap was backhanded, fueled by all the weight of her diamond rings. It caught Amelia on the cheekbone just below her eye. The force of it sent her stumbling sideways. Her hip hit the side table, glasses shattering as they crashed to the floor. She went down hard on her knees, the broken crystal biting through her cheap red uniform pants. The restaurant beyond the screens went dead silent. Even the soft Korean music seemed to stop mid-note. Amelia's face was on fire. She tasted copper blood from where the ring had split her skin. Tears burned behind her eyes, not from sadness but from shock, from humiliation, from the knowledge that this moment had just destroyed everything. She'd be fired, arrested, maybe. The facility would transfer her grandmother tomorrow. "Look at me," Olivia hissed, towering over her. "You're going to pay for this dress. I will have you arrested. I will make sure you never work in this city again. I will..." "That's enough." The voice was low, controlled, but it carried more authority than any scream. Amelia looked up through the blur of tears. Jin-woo Park was standing, and the look in his eyes as he stared at Olivia wasn't love. It was ice-cold fury. The silence stretched like a wire pulled too tight, ready to snap. Amelia stayed on her knees among the shattered glass, one hand pressed to her burning cheek, blood seeping between her fingers. The entire restaurant held its breath. Everyone knew what came next. Jin-woo Park's woman had been disrespected. The waitress would disappear. Maybe her whole family would disappear. Richard came running, his face purple with panic. "Security! Get her out of here!" He grabbed Amelia's arm, yanking her upward. "You're done! Fired! I'm calling the police. You assaulted a customer. Sit. Down." "Olivia." Jin-woo's voice cut through Richard's hysteria like a scalpel. He wasn't shouting. He didn't need to. The command carried the weight of absolute authority. Olivia blinked, confusion flickering across her rage-twisted features. Jin-woo, she ruined my Anja. The Korean word cracked like a whip. Olivia sat, instinct overriding indignation, but then her brain caught up to her bruised ego. She shot back up, pointing a manicured finger at Amelia. Are you seriously taking her side? This clumsy bitch just... Jin-woo moved faster than Amelia thought possible. His hand shot out, catching Olivia's wrist mid-air as she raised it to strike again. His grip made Olivia's face go white. A small, pathetic whimper escaped her throat. You just committed battery in front of 50 witnesses, Jin-woo said, his voice so calm it was terrifying. Assault. Hate crime. I watched you deliberately knock her arm, then strike her with enough force to draw blood while using a racial slur. Jin-woo. You can't be... He released her wrist with a flick, like discarding something contaminated. Olivia stumbled backward, cradling her arm. Jin-woo turned away from her completely, turned to Amelia. He extended his hand. It was steady, confident. Stand up. Amelia stared at that hand like it might be a trap. If she touched him, would she disappear? Was this some sick game before the real punishment began? But the look in his eyes wasn't cruel. It was searching, intense. She reached up with her trembling, blood-stained hand and took his. He pulled her to her feet effortlessly. She was light, too thin, he noted it immediately. Up close, she smelled like vanilla soap and exhaustion and fear. Look at me, he commanded softly. Amelia forced herself to meet his gaze. His eyes were dark, almost black in the dim light, and they tracked across her face with clinical precision. He reached out, his thumb gently tilting her chin upward to examine the cut. The touch sent an electric shock through her nervous system. You're bleeding, he stated. I'm fine, Amelia whispered, her voice cracking. I just need to clean up. Leave the glass. Jin-woo pulled a pristine white silk handkerchief from his breast pocket and pressed it carefully against her cheekbone. Hold this. Richard was making strangled sounds behind them. Mr. Park, I apologize for this employee's incompetence. She'll be terminated immediately and will comp your entire... Jin-woo turned his head slowly toward Richard. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Did you see her assault anyone, Richard? Jin-woo's use of the manager's name was somehow more threatening than any curse. The dress, the spill. I saw a woman deliberately cause a spill. Then I saw another woman commit a hate crime. Jin-woo took one step toward Richard. Just one. Richard backed up 3. If this employee is not here tomorrow night, I will buy this restaurant. Then I will buy the building. Then I will burn both to the ground and build a parking lot on top of the ashes. Do we understand each other? Richard nodded so hard Amelia thought his head might fall off. Jin-woo turned back to Olivia, who stood frozen, mascara starting to run. We're done, Olivia. Your display tonight has embarrassed me for the last time. Your racism, your violence, your complete lack of control. You can't be serious, Olivia laughed, the sound bordering on hysterical. Over some waitress? Jin-woo, my father. Your father, Jin-woo interrupted, will receive a call from me in the morning explaining exactly why his daughter is no longer welcome in my life or my business. He snapped his fingers. The 2 security guards moved instantly. Escort Miss Chen out. Through the kitchen. Service entrance. Like trash? Olivia shrieked. You're throwing me out like trash? Yes, Jin-woo said simply. As the guards took Olivia's arms, her screaming protests fading toward the kitchen, Jin-woo returned his full attention to Amelia. Get your coat, he said. You need a doctor for that cut. I can't go with you, Amelia stammered, survival instincts finally kicking through the shock. I don't know you. Everyone knows me, Miss Brooks, Jin-woo said quietly. Amelia's blood turned to ice. He knew her name. Her last name. A name she'd never spoken in his presence. But you're right, he continued, something dangerous flickering behind his eyes. You don't know me, which is why we need to talk, privately, about your grandmother, Helen, about Sunset Gardens memory care, About the $65,000 in defaulted student loans. The handkerchief slipped from Amelia's numb fingers. He knew everything. And that smile, small, sharp, calculating, told her this wasn't a rescue. It was a transaction. And she was the merchandise. The Maybach was a fortress on wheels, midnight black, with windows so dark the Los Angeles night looked like deep space beyond them. The leather interior smelled like money and something else. Danger. Amelia pressed herself against the far door. The silk handkerchief clutched to her bleeding cheek, her mind spinning in panicked circles. This was insane. She'd gotten into a car with the most dangerous man in Los Angeles. A man who somehow knew her name. Her full name. The partition between them and the driver was up. They were alone in this rolling tomb of luxury. The silence pressed down like a physical weight until Jin-Woo finally spoke. "Helen Brooks," he said casually, adjusting his cufflinks. 72 years old, currently residing at Sunset Gardens Memory Care. Stage 4, Alzheimer's, declining rapidly. Amelia's heart stopped. Actually stopped. Then restarted with a violent hammer against her ribs. How? Her voice came out strangled. "I never said." "Amelia Michelle Brooks," Jin-Woo continued, his tone conversational, clinical. 26 years old. 3 jobs, coffee shop, the Lotus, and overnight cleaning at Century City Plaza. 2 years of nursing school at UCLA before withdrawal due to family emergency. Currently carrying $65,343 in defaulted student loans. Each fact was a blow. Each word stripped away another layer of her privacy, her dignity, leaving her naked and exposed. "You received an eviction notice 8 days ago," he went on, "taped to your door in that lovely apartment complex in South LA where the elevator hasn't worked in 3 months. You're 2 months behind on rent, $2,400. But that's not your real problem, is it?" Amelia's hands were shaking so hard the handkerchief fell to her lap. "Stop! Just how do you know these things?" "Your real problem," Jin-Woo said, finally turning to look at her fully, "is that Sunset Gardens threatened to transfer Helen to county care if you miss next Friday's payment. And county care for Alzheimer's patients is just a polite term for warehousing people until they die." Tears burned hot tracks down Amelia's face, stinging the cut on her cheek. "You're a monster. I make it my business to know everyone who handles my food," Jin-Woo said simply. "Especially those who radiate the kind of quiet desperation that makes people unpredictable. Desperate people do desperate things. You've been spying on me, observing, for 6 weeks. He shifted in his seat, his focus absolute. "You've lost 8 pounds in that time. You check your phone every 4 minutes during breaks, calling the facility, I assume, checking on Helen. You flinch when customers are rude, but you never talk back, never defend yourself. You've been taught to make yourself small, invisible." "Stop." The word came out as a sob. "You're intelligent, capable. You could have been a nurse, could have had a career, a life. Instead, you're being crushed by a system designed to destroy people who don't have money or connections." His eyes darkened. "I despise waste, Miss Brooks, and you are being utterly wasted." The car slowed, turning into an underground garage lit by harsh fluorescent lights. They weren't at a hospital. This was something private. "Where are we?" "Beverly Hills Medical Pavilion," Jin-Woo said as his door opened. A driver, not the security guards from the restaurant, someone new stood at attention. "The best plastic surgeon in California. That cut needs proper treatment. I can't afford." "I'm not asking you to pay." Jin-Woo stepped out, then turned back, offering his hand again. "Consider it an investment." "In what?" Amelia asked, fear making her voice sharp. "In my future wife." The words hung in the air like a grenade with the pin pulled. Amelia stared at him, certain she'd misheard, certain the blow to her head had scrambled her brain. "I'm sorry, what?" "Come inside, Miss Brooks," Jin-Woo said, his expression unreadable. "Let the doctor fix your face. Then we'll discuss the terms of your employment." "Employment? Contract marriage. 18 months. In exchange, I pay off every cent of your debt. Move Helen to the finest memory care facility in California with round-the-clock specialized care and pay you $10,000 per month." He paused. "Or you can go back to that apartment, lose your grandmother to county care by Friday, and spend the next 20 years drowning in debt while working yourself into an early grave. Amelia's mouth opened, closed. No words came out. Clock's ticking, Miss Brooks, Jinwoo said softly. What's it going to be, survival or pride? And in that moment, staring at the devil's extended hand, Amelia realized she'd already lost, because she knew exactly which one she'd choose. She always had. The doctor at Beverly Hills Medical Pavilion treated Amelia's cut like she was porcelain-numbing gel, sterile adhesive strips that would heal without scarring. Antibiotic cream in a silver tube that probably cost more than her monthly groceries. Jinwoo watched from across the pristine examination room, silent, his presence a constant weight. Now the Maybach rolled through streets the doctor had probably never seen. Broken streetlights, boarded windows, gang tags layering every surface like archaeological strata of urban decay. The kind of neighborhood where you didn't make eye contact, didn't walk alone after dark, didn't call the police because they wouldn't come anyway. When they pulled up to Amelia's building, 4 stories of peeling brown paint and crumbling concrete shame flooded through her so intensely she wanted to sink through the leather seat and disappear. I can get out here, she said, reaching for the door handle. Wait. Jinwoo's voice stopped her. I need 5 more minutes of your time. He told the driver to give them privacy. The partitions slid up with a soft whir. Jinwoo turned in his seat, giving her his full attention. 3 months ago, a private equity firm purchased a portfolio of defaulted student loans from your original lender. Educational debt, mostly medical and nursing students who couldn't complete their programs. High risk, high reward investments. Amelia's stomach dropped. Okay, I own that firm. The air left her lungs. I've been watching your financial destruction in real time, Miss Brooks. Every missed payment, every collections call, every desperate attempt to negotiate lower monthly amounts. His eyes were dark, fathomless. I know your grandmother has maybe 6 months left. I know Sunset Gardens is barely adequate, minimal staffing, shared rooms, recreational therapy once a week if they remember. Helen deserves better than that for her final days. Why are you doing this? Amelia's voice cracked. Why me? What do you want? I need a wife. There it was again. That impossible statement. Not a mistress, Jinwoo continued. Not a girlfriend, a legal wife. For 18 months, he explained it like a business transaction. Because that's what it was. He had a $500 million waterfront hotel and casino development deal with a consortium of traditional Korean investors, old money, conservative values, family-oriented. The Crown Pacific project would transform downtown LA's skyline and legitimize Jinwoo's empire in the eyes of the city. But they'd rejected 3 previous proposals because of Jinwoo's bachelor lifestyle. His relationship with Olivia, volatile, public, messy, had been the final straw. They want respectability, Jinwoo said. Family values, a stable marriage. I need to give them that image. So hire an actress, a model, someone Korean? Jinwoo's smile was sharp, humorless. Someone they'd approve of? Yes. Why would you pick? Amelia gestured at herself, at her dark skin, her natural hair, everything about her that screamed wrong for this role. I'm black. Your investors are traditional Koreans. They probably have very specific ideas about who you should marry. Exactly. Jinwoo leaned forward. That's precisely why you're perfect. I bow to no one's prejudices, Miss Brooks. Your presence at my side will force them to confront their biases while accepting the deal anyway, because my money is too good to refuse. It's a statement of power. My power. I'm a statement? Rage cut through the fear. A prop for your ego? You're a solution, he corrected. For both of us. I pay off every cent of your debt, gone, erased. I move Helen to Hillcrest Manor, the finest memory care facility in California. Private suite, 24/7 specialized nursing, music therapy, garden access, whatever she needs. And I pay you $10,000 per month for 18 months. When it's over, you walk away with $180,000 in the bank and no debt. You'll finally have the freedom you've been killing yourself to find. Amelia's mind reeled. It was too much. Too impossible. Why 18 months? That's how long the development project will take. Once construction begins, and the first phase is complete, the marriage becomes irrelevant. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a black business card. Matte finish. A single phone number embossed in silver. A car will arrive at 8 a.m. tomorrow, Jinwoo said. If you get in, we have a deal. If you don't, you never hear from me again. And if I say no, then you go back to drowning. Helen goes to county care by Friday. And in 20 years, you'll still be working 3 jobs, still buried in debt, wondering if you should have taken the devil's bargain when you had the chance. He opened his door. The driver appeared instantly, opening Amelia's side. She stumbled out onto the cracked sidewalk, the business card burning in her palm like a live coal. Jinwoo's window slid down. One more thing, Miss Brooks. I always collect on my investments. If you take this deal, you're mine for 18 months. Completely. No exceptions. Consider that carefully. The Maybach pulled away, taillights disappearing into the night. Amelia climbed the 3 flights of stairs the elevator had been broken for 4 months and unlocked the door to apartment 3B. Her grandmother sat in the worn armchair, awake but lost, staring at a photo album she couldn't remember. Sarah? Helen looked up, her eyes bright but empty. Sarah, baby. Is that you? Sarah, Amelia's mother. Dead for 12 years. It's me, Grandma, Amelia whispered, kneeling beside her. It's Amelia. Amelia? Helen frowned, confused. I don't. Do I know you? And just like that, the decision made itself. At 2 a.m., Amelia sat on the floor of her cramped kitchen, surrounded by unopened bills, red envelopes, final notices, the eviction warning, a collections letter threatening legal action. She'd done the math 3 times, checking her calculator like it might suddenly produce different numbers. 11 days. That's all she had before they were both on the street. In the next room, her grandmother slept fitfully, having asked Amelia 4 times in the past hour who she was, each time more frightened than the last. Amelia pulled out the black business card. The embossed numbers seemed to glow in the dim light. Her hands were shaking when she dialed. Jinwoo answered on the first ring. Miss Brooks. He'd been waiting. Expecting this. I'll do it, she whispered into the darkness. Good. Be ready at 8 o'clock. Pack light, everything you need will be provided. My grandmother, already arranged. Medical transport will collect Helen at 6 a.m. She'll be settled in her new suite at Hillcrest Manor by the time you arrive at my office. He'd planned everything. Anticipated her surrender before she'd even made the call. The line went dead. At 8 a.m. Sharp, a black SUV pulled up. The driver was a mountain of a man with a scar bisecting his left eyebrow. Min-ho, he grunted, taking her single battered suitcase. He spoke no other words during the entire drive. Amelia had watched the medical transport take her grandmother away at dawn. Helen had been confused, agitated, calling for her dead daughter. The nurse, professional, kind, nothing like the overworked staff at Sunset Gardens, had administered a mild sedative and promised Amelia could visit this afternoon. This afternoon, when she'd be someone else entirely. The park tower dominated downtown LA's skyline, a blade of black glass cutting into the sky. Min-ho escorted her to a private elevator that required a retinal scan. The ascent was so fast her ears popped. The penthouse office was all floor-to-ceiling windows and ruthless modern design. Jinwoo stood behind a desk that looked carved from obsidian, wearing a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her car had before it got repossessed last month. Sit. He gestured to a leather chair across from him. On the desk sat a document easily 200 pages thick, bound in black leather. English on the left pages, Korean on the right. The contract, Jinwoo said. Read it carefully, Amelia read. Each clause was a chain link, binding her tighter. Party B, Amelia Brooks, will cohabitate with Party A, Jinwoo Park, at his primary residence for the duration of the agreement. Party B will appear as Party A's devoted spouse at all business functions, social events, and public appearances as required. Party B will maintain absolute fidelity. Any romantic or sexual contact with third parties constitutes breach of contract. Party B will submit to comprehensive image transformation, including but not limited to wardrobe selection, styling consultation, etiquette training, and language instruction. Party B will sign an ironclad non-disclosure agreement. Breach will result in immediate termination of all financial benefits and legal action seeking damages of no less than $5 million. $5 million? Amelia looked up, her voice hollow. If you sell this story to the press, if you betray me, lawsuits will be the least of your problems, Jinwoo said calmly. I need insurance that you understand the stakes. You own me. For 18 months. He came around the desk, leaning against it, looking down at her. I chose you specifically, Miss Brooks. Not in spite of your desperation, but because of it. Your fear is real. Your pride is real. You won't fake devotion convincingly, and that's perfect. These Korean investors will see exactly what I want them to see: a woman tamed by my power. Proof I can control anything, even something as unpredictable as love. He opened a lacquered box on his desk. Inside, nestled in black velvet, sat a ring that made Amelia's breath catch. A massive diamond in a platinum setting, surrounded by smaller stones in a distinctly Korean design pattern. This is worth more than you'd make in 5 years at the Lotus, Jinwoo said, taking her left hand. His touch was warm, firm. He slid the ring onto her finger slowly, deliberately. It fit perfectly. Of course it did. He'd planned everything. His thumb brushed across her knuckles, lingering just a moment too long. Rule 1, he said, not releasing her hand. We are never separated in public. Where I go, you go. Rule 2, you never contradict me in front of my associates. Never question me. Never undermine me. Rule 3. He pulled her to her feet, closing the distance between them until she could feel the heat radiating from his body. You are now the wife of the most dangerous man in Los Angeles. That makes you a target. For my enemies, for people who want to hurt me, you will have security at all times. You will follow protocols, because one wrong step doesn't just end this contract, Miss Brooks. His eyes were obsidian, merciless. It ends your life. Before Amelia could process that threat, Jinwoo's office door burst open. A man rushed in, young, panicked, his shirt stained with something dark and wet. Blood. Youngnim! The Korean word for older brother came out strangled. The shipment the Yakuza hid it. They knew exactly where. He noticed Amelia. Faltered. We have a problem. A big one. Jinwoo's expression didn't change, but something deadly flashed in his eyes. Get her to the compound, he told Minho, who'd appeared in the doorway. Full security protocols. Now, what's happening? Amelia asked, fear spiking. Jinwoo turned to her, and for the first time, she saw something raw beneath the control. Fury. Violence barely leashed. Welcome to the family, Mrs. Park, he said softly. The war just started. Minho drove like he was being chased by death itself. The armored SUV tore through downtown LA, weaving through traffic with aggressive precision, running lights that had just turned red. Amelia gripped the door handle, her new ring cutting into her palm. What's happening? She demanded. Why are we— Quiet, Minho grunted. His eyes never stopped moving. Rear-view mirror, side mirrors, the streets ahead, scanning for threats. They hit the freeway, accelerating to speeds that made Amelia's stomach drop. Behind them, a second black SUV appeared, keeping pace, more security. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Helen settled in Suite 3A, resting comfortably. You can visit tomorrow. JW. Jinwoo had already made good on part of the deal. Her grandmother was safe, which meant Amelia was locked in now. No escape. They exited into the Hollywood Hills, climbing higher into an area where mansions hid behind walls that looked designed to repel armies. The houses grew larger, more isolated, the roads narrower, more winding. Finally, they reached gates that looked like they belonged to a military installation, 20 feet of wrought iron topped with cameras and what Amelia was pretty sure were motion sensors. Minho didn't slow down. The gates swung open before they arrived, clearly expecting them. Armed guards flanked the entrance. Not security guards, soldiers. Men with assault rifles and earpieces and expressions that said they'd killed before and wouldn't hesitate to do it again. They bowed slightly as the SUV passed. The driveway wound through manicured grounds, Japanese maples, sculpted rocks, a koi pond that probably cost more than most houses. Then, the mansion came into view. It was stunning and terrifying. Modern Korean architecture merged with California minimalism, all glass, steel, and dark wood, clean lines, sharp angles, floor-to-ceiling windows that revealed rooms lit like art galleries. It looked less like a home and more like a statement of power. The SUV stopped under a covered portico. Minho opened her door. Inside, quickly. An older Korean woman waited at the entrance. She was perhaps 60, dressed in a severe black dress with a white apron, her silver hair pulled into a tight bun. Her face was all hard angles and disapproval. "Mrs. Song," Minho said by way of introduction. Head of household. Mrs. Song looked Amelia up and down, her expression suggesting she'd found Amelia lacking. She spoke rapid Korean to Minho, who translated in his clipped, minimal way. "You stay master suite. No leave residential wing without approval. Security system armed always. Break rules. Alarms trigger. Lockdown protocol." "I'm a prisoner?" Amelia asked. "You are protected," Mrs. Song said in heavily accented English, her first words directly to Amelia. "Big difference." Mrs. Song turned and walked into the house. Amelia had no choice but to follow. The interior was breathtaking, soaring ceilings, art that belonged in museums, furniture that looked like it cost more per piece than her entire apartment building. Everything was immaculate, minimal, expensive. They climbed a floating staircase to the second floor, down a hallway lined with what looked like traditional Korean paintings in modern frames. Mrs. Song opened double doors at the end of the hall. The master bedroom was obscene in its luxury. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the glittering expanse of Los Angeles below, the city spread out like fallen stars. A bed that could sleep 5 dominated the space low platform, black silk sheets, dark wood frame. The bathroom, visible through an open door, featured a soaking tub carved from a single piece of stone. The room smelled like him. Sandalwood, green tea, something darker, more masculine, dangerous. Mrs. Song walked to a closet and slid the door open. Amelia's breath caught. The walk-in closet was the size of her old bedroom, and it was full. Designer dresses, tailored pants, silk blouses, shoes in neat rows, everything in her exact size. "How?" Amelia started. "Mr. Park very thorough, Mrs. Song said. "He prepare everything." She gestured around the room. "This your home now. You are Mrs. Park. You stay here." Mrs. Song left, the door closing with a soft, final click. Amelia walked to the window, pressing her palm against the glass. Below, she could see guards patrolling the perimeter, men with dogs, cameras on every corner, walls too high to climb. She was in a palace, a fortress, a cage. She'd been bought, paid for, owned. The diamond on her finger caught the light, throwing rainbow fractals across the silk sheets. Her phone buzzed again. Another text. "Rest. You have training tomorrow. Stylist at 10. Language tutor at noon. Etiquette consultant at 3. Dinner with my associates at 7. You'll need to be convincing. JW." Then, a second message arrived, this one making her blood run cold. "P.S. Olivia has been making calls. She's connected to people who want me dead. Watch everyone. Trust no one. Even in my house." Amelia stared at the message. Olivia wasn't just a scorned ex-lover. She was actively working against Jin Woo. And if she had connections to his enemies, a sound made her freeze. Footsteps in the hallway, stopping outside her door. The handle turned slowly. Amelia's heart hammered. Mrs. Song had left. Minho was downstairs. Jin Woo was still at his office dealing with the attack. So who was opening her door? The door swung inward. A figure stood silhouetted in the hallway light. Not Jin Woo. Someone else. And they were holding something that glinted like steel. The figure stepped into the light. Mrs. Song, holding a silver tea tray. "You need eat," she said simply, setting down a bowl of rice and soup. She glanced at Amelia's terrified expression and her lips thinned. You think everyone here won't hurt you. Not true. We protect Mrs. Park." She left without another word. Amelia's heart was still hammering as she locked the door. She couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. She sat in the massive bed, still wearing her red uniform from the restaurant, watching the clock tick past midnight. Past 1 a.m., past 2. Where was Jinwoo? Was he hurt? Dead? Why did she even care? At 3:17 a.m., she heard it, shouting in rapid Korean, heavy footsteps pounding up the stairs, doors slamming, male voices, urgent, angry. Then her door flew open. Jinwoo stood in the doorway, and Amelia's breath stopped in her throat. He was bleeding. God, he was bleeding everywhere. His white dress shirt was torn open, soaked crimson from a gash across his ribs that looked deep enough to see bone. His knuckles were split and swollen, bruised purple-black. One eye was swelling shut, blood crusted at his temple. A knife slash on his forearm still seeped, painting his skin red. He looked like he'd walked through a war zone. The composed, controlled man from this morning was gone. This was raw violence barely contained in a human shape. He saw her and stopped. Something flickered across his battered face, surprise maybe, that she was still awake, still here. "You're bleeding," Amelia heard herself say stupidly. Jinwoo moved toward the bathroom, his gait unsteady. "I'm aware," he swayed. Actually swayed. Amelia's training kicked in before her fear could stop her. 2 years of caring for her grandmother, of handling medical emergencies at 3 a.m., of being the only thing standing between life and death. "Sit down," she ordered, her voice sharp with the authority of someone who dealt with stubborn patients. "Now." Jinwoo turned, looking at her with his one good eye. Something like amusement cut through the pain. Then he sat on the edge of the bed. Amelia rushed to the bathroom. Of course, there was a first aid kit, industrial-sized, fully stocked. This clearly wasn't his first time coming home bleeding. She returned, opening the kit with shaking hands. "Take off your shirt." He obeyed, wincing as the fabric pulled away from the wound. His torso was a canvas of old scars, knife wounds, bullet grazes, stories written in scar tissue. The new gash across his ribs was ugly, deep, definitely needed stitches. But she could at least keep him from bleeding out. Amelia cleaned the wound with antiseptic, her touch as gentle as possible. Jinwoo didn't make a sound. His breathing was controlled, steady, despite what had to be agonizing pain. "Why are you helping me?" he asked quietly, watching her work. "I don't know," Amelia admitted, reaching for the gauze. "Maybe it's muscle memory. 2 years of caring for my grandmother. I can't watch someone bleed without doing something about it, even if that someone owns you. Especially then. Can't collect on your investment if you bleed to death on these expensive sheets." A short, sharp laugh escaped him, genuine surprise. She worked in silence, cleaning each wound, bandaging his knuckles, the gash on his arm. When she reached the wound on his ribs, she had to lean close, wrapping the bandage around his torso. Her fingers brushed his skin warm, solid, alive. The air between them changed. The proximity, the intimacy of the act, his vulnerability laid bare. Her hands on his body, gentle despite everything he'd done to her, everything he represented. When she tied off the bandage, Jinwoo caught her wrist, not roughly, but firmly. He pulled her closer until she was standing between his knees, his face level with hers. One hand still held her wrist. The other came up to cup her jaw, his thumb brushing across her cheekbone where Olivia's slap had landed hours a lifetime ago. "You're full of surprises, Amelia Brooks," he murmured. The use of her first name sent electricity down her spine. "What happened tonight?" she whispered. "The Yakuza hit our shipment in Long Beach. They knew exactly when and where." His grip on her wrist tightened fractionally. "Someone told them. Someone in my inner circle. A traitor." "Yes." His eyes, both of them now, the swollen one forcing itself open, burned into hers. "Which means I can't trust anyone in this house. Not my captains. Not my advisors. Not even some of my staff. Then why?" "The only person I know isn't compromised is you," Jinwoo said, pulling her infinitesimally closer. You have no connection to this world, no history, no loyalties except to your grandmother. His thumb traced her bottom lip. And I own that loyalty completely. Before Amelia could respond, before she could process the dangerous heat building between them, a sound made them both freeze. Footsteps, in the hallway, stopping outside the door. Jin Woo moved faster than someone that injured should be able to move. His hand shot under the pillow. Emerging with a gun, he put a finger to his lips. Silence. The doorknob turned slowly. Someone was trying to get in, and Jin Woo's expression said he knew exactly who it was. The doorknob stopped turning. The footsteps retreated. Jin Woo lowered the gun but didn't put it away. That was Min Ho, checking perimeter. How do you know? His walk. Heavy on the left foot, old injury. Jin Woo set the gun on the nightstand, within easy reach. I know everyone's footsteps in this house. It's how you stay alive. Amelia's legs felt weak. She sat on the edge of the bed, as far from him as possible. What happened tonight? The truth. Jin Woo stood, moving to the window despite his injuries. The Yakuza hit our warehouse in Long Beach. 6 men waiting. They knew exactly when the shipment would arrive down to the minute. Knew which entrance we'd use. Which route. Everything. Someone told them. Someone I trust. Someone in my inner circle. He turned, his profile sharp against the city lights. I've suspected a mole for 3 weeks. Small things information leaking, deals falling through at the last second. But tonight confirmed it. The attack was surgical. Precise. How many died? 2 of my men. I killed 4 of theirs. He said it like reporting the weather. Clinical. Detached. The other 2 ran. Amelia's stomach turned. She was sharing a room with a man who'd killed 4 people tonight and felt nothing. And now, Jin Woo continued, you're in danger too. What? You're my wife. In the eyes of my organization, you're mine, which makes you a target. He moved toward her, each step deliberate despite his pain. The Yakuza will come for you to hurt me. The mole will try to use you, pump you for information, use you as leverage. I don't know anything. Exactly. Which is why you're the only person in this compound I can trust. He sat beside her on the bed, close enough that she could feel his heat. You have no connections to this world, no history, no loyalties except to Helen. His hand caught her chin, forcing her to look at him. And I own that loyalty completely. Amelia jerked away. So what now? You lock me in this room forever? No. Jin Woo stood, wincing, and began unbuttoning what remained of his ruined shirt. You stay with me, where I can see you. Amelia averted her eyes as he stripped off the bloody fabric. I'm not sleeping in here with you. Yes, you are. His voice was flat, brooking no argument. Get in the bed, Amelia. No. He turned, and the look in his eyes made her blood freeze. If someone comes through that door tonight to finish what they started, I need you where I can protect you. You're not just my contract wife. You're my witness, my proof I wasn't alone tonight, my alibi if anyone asks questions. The implications hit her like a slap. You're using me. I'm keeping you alive, he corrected. But yes, you're also bait. If the mole makes a move against you, I'll know who to eliminate. Horror crawled up Amelia's spine. You're dangling me in front of a traitor? This is the world you agreed to enter. Jin Woo pulled his gun from his waistband and set it on the nightstand. Sentiment has no place in survival. Now get in the bed. And if I refuse, then you sleep on the floor. But you're not leaving this room. He pulled back the black silk sheets. Your choice. Amelia stared at him, this beautiful, broken, deadly man who'd bought her like property and was now using her as bait in a game that could get her killed. But Helen was safe. That's what mattered. She climbed into bed, staying as far to the edge as possible. The mattress dipped as Jin Woo got in on the other side, the gun within easy reach of his hand. Sleep, he commanded, his voice already fading. Tomorrow you meet the wolves. Amelia lay rigid, listening to his breathing slow and deepen. Despite everything, the injuries, the violence, the danger, he fell asleep in minutes. The sleep of a predator who feared nothing. She stared at the ceiling, her mind racing. Then she saw it, a shadow moving past the gap under the door. Too slow to be a patrol. too deliberate. Someone was out there, listening, watching. The shadow stopped, right outside the door. Amelia's heart hammered so loud she was sure Jinwoo would hear it. The shadow didn't move, just waited, watching the gap of light, knowing she was in there, knowing she was in Jinwoo's bed. And then, barely audible, a sound that made her blood run cold. A soft, satisfied laugh. The mole knew exactly where she was, and they were already planning their move. Amelia woke to an empty bed. Jinwoo's side was cold, the sheets undisturbed as if he'd never been there. But the dried blood on the pillow said otherwise. So did the gun missing from the nightstand. Sunlight poured through the floor-to-ceiling windows, making Los Angeles look deceptively peaceful below all glittering glass and palm trees, hiding its violence in plain sight. The door opened without a knock. Mrs. Song entered carrying a lacquered tray. Traditional Korean breakfast rice, miyeokguk seaweed soup, an array of banchan in tiny dishes. She set it on the bedside table with an expression that suggested Amelia had already disappointed her just by existing. "You have schedule today," Mrs. Song announced. "Stylist at 10. Language tutor at noon. Etiquette consultant at 3. Where's Jinwoo?" Mrs. Song's expression hardened. "Mr. Park at doctor. Getting stitches." She said it matter-of-factly, as if men coming home half-dead was routine. "Business. You call him Mr. Park now. Or Nampion husband." She made the word sound like a threat. "Tonight, dinner with associates. Important men. You must be perfect." Perfect. Right. Amelia hadn't been perfect a day in her life. "I need to call my grandmother." "Your phone." Mrs. Song pointed to the nightstand. Amelia's beat-up Android was gone. In its place sat a new iPhone in a designer leather case. She picked it up, unlocking it with her face. All her contacts had been transferred. Photos. Everything. She dialed Hillcrest Manor. A robotic voice interrupted. "All communications on this device are secured and monitored." Amelia's blood turned cold. She hung up, tried texting instead. The same message appeared. "All communications are monitored and recorded." "You're tracking me?" Amelia looked at Mrs. Song, rage and helplessness warring in her chest. "Reading my messages." "You signed contract," Mrs. Song said coldly. "You are Mrs. Park. Everything you do reflects on him. We protect investment. Investment, not person. Investment." The transformation began at 10 sharp. Jion the stylist arrived with racks of clothes, nothing like the cheap polyester red uniforms or clearance rack basics Amelia owned. Silk, cashmere, designer labels she'd only seen in magazines. Jion circled her like a predator assessing prey, making notes in Korean, holding fabrics up to Amelia's skin, critiquing her posture, her walk, everything. "You are too stiff," Jiyeon said, her English perfect but sharp. "Mrs. Park must look natural in expensive clothes, like you were born to wear them." But Amelia wasn't born to wear them, and every garment felt like a costume, like she was playing dress-up in someone else's life. The language tutor arrived at noon, a kind-faced older man named Mr. Cho who taught her basic phrases with patient repetition. "안녕하세요, hello, 감사합니다, thank you. 죄송합니다, I'm sorry." The words felt foreign in her mouth, but Mr. Cho smiled encouragement. "Tonight, these men may speak Korean, assuming you don't understand," he said quietly. "Listen carefully. You may learn things Mr. Park needs to know." So she was a spy now, too. Perfect. The etiquette consultant at 3 was brutal. A severe woman named Madame Kang, who critiqued everything how Amelia sat, too casual. How she held chopsticks, like a child. How she poured tea, disrespectfully. "You stand behind him always," Madame Kang instructed, physically positioning Amelia. "Slightly to the left. Never speak unless spoken to. Never contradict him. You are the image of a proper Korean wife. Deferential, elegant, silent." "I'm not Korean," Amelia said. "No, you are American. Black." A statement. Madame Kang's eyes were calculating. "Mr. Park chose you to make a point, but you must not embarrass him. One mistake tonight could cost him $500 million, could cost you everything." As the day wore on, Amelia caught her reflection in the full-length mirror. The woman staring back was a stranger. She wore a silk dress in deep emerald that hugged her curves, elegant, expensive, nothing like anything she'd owned before. Her natural hair had been professionally styled, shaped and glossed until it looked magazine-ready. The cut on her face was invisible under expert makeup. The diamond on her finger caught the light, throwing prisms across the walls. She looked like she belonged in this world. She looked like Mrs. Park, but inside, she was still Amelia Brooks, the girl who'd served wine 36 hours ago, the girl drowning in debt, the girl who'd sold herself to save her grandmother. That girl was gone now, erased, replaced by this polished stranger. At 6:30 p.m., Min-ho appeared at her door. Time to go. Where's Jin-woo? Mr. Park meets us at restaurant. You ride with me. As they walked to the car, Min-ho leaned close. Last night, the shadow under the door, the laugh. His eyes were hard. Mr. Park heard it too. We checking security footage now. Someone in this house watching you. Amelia's blood turned to ice. So it hadn't been her imagination. The drive into downtown LA was silent. Min-ho's eyes never stopped moving, checking mirrors, scanning streets, watching for threats. They pulled up to an ultra-modern restaurant, all black glass and sharp angles, valets in designer suits. Min-ho opened her door. Remember, he said quietly, you are being watched. By Mr. Park's men, by his enemies, by the mole. His eyes bored into hers. One wrong word tonight. You don't just fail. You die. Amelia's legs felt weak as she stepped out. Inside, Jin-woo waited in a private dining room. He looked immaculate charcoal suit, his injuries hidden beneath the expensive fabric, though she could see the slight stiffness in how he moved, the fresh bandaging visible at his collar, a shadow of bruising still darkening his temple despite the makeup covering it. When he saw her, something flickered in his eyes. Approval? Possession? Beautiful, he murmured, taking her hand. His grip was gentler than usual, his knuckles still healing beneath the bandages. They're going to eat you alive, but you look perfect doing it. 4 Korean men in expensive suits sat around the table. Old money, traditional. Their eyes raked over Amelia with barely concealed disdain. Jin-woo made the introductions, his hand possessive on her lower back. Gentlemen, my wife, Amelia. Amelia, this is Mr. Choi Dae-jung, lead investor for the Crown Pacific project. A man in his 60s with silver hair and cold eyes nodded stiffly. Mr. Baek Min-sok, legal counsel. Younger, maybe 40, with wire-rimmed glasses and a calculating expression. Mr. Han Jae-sung from the architectural firm. 50s, expensive watch, fingers drumming impatiently on the table. And Mr. Yoon Sang-woo, my oldest business partner. Yoon was perhaps 55, distinguished, with a warm smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. He stood, bowing slightly. Mrs. Park, such a pleasure. But as Amelia looked at him at that smile, at the way his eyes tracked her movements with too much interest, she felt it. The same predatory assessment she'd felt from the shadow under the door. Then Mr. Yoon's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and for just a fraction of a second, his expression changed, satisfied, knowing. And Amelia realized with ice-cold certainty the mole wasn't just in Jin-woo's organization. The mole was Jin-woo's oldest friend, and he was sitting 3 feet away, smiling like a shark. If you are hooked on this story and need to know what happens next, please like this video. It really helps the channel grow so I can write more of these for you. Subscribe and hit the bell icon right now so you get notified the second episode 2 drops. You do not want to miss the twist coming up next week. Let me know in the comments. Do you trust Jin-woo, or is he just using Amelia? Type trust or use below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next chapter.